Hi everyone, welcome to Tales of Dread. I have loved the woods ever since I was a boy. Every day, I lived in a house next to a very wooded area. I would go outside with my friends into the woods. We hiked, camped, climbed trees, and did just about everything else in the woods. The woods were our playground, and we thought we were in charge of them, or so we thought. Looking back, I remember that as we ran around in the forest, I could see something quickly moving between the trees next to me. I told myself that my eye was fooling me. When I was camping with my friends and we were sitting around the fire, I could have sworn I saw something when I turned away to get my friends' attention to look at it. It wasn't there. When we looked back, we didn't hear a thing. My friends made fun of me and said I was afraid of the dark. I laughed with them, sure that it was just a trick of the light or something. I would sometimes look out the window at night to see the forest. These were the scariest times because I couldn't figure out what it was, but when I looked out the window at the woods, I would see a face among the trees before it quickly disappeared. Those nights I didn't get a single wink of sleep. I still went into the woods a lot, usually because my friends told me to. I tried to forget the strange face, which I did for a while. I was 17 when my friends Hayden, Noah, and Mason, as well as my brother Karen, got me to go camping with them in the woods. We packed up our gear and went to our usual spot in the woods. After a few hours, it was dark and the fire was going strong. Lee leaned back in his camping chair and looked around. Small black square, well, small black square, I'd say I did a good job if I say so myself, he said. I gave him a dirty look. It was a 16-year-old person who lived there. He kept making stupid jokes over and over again. Please, I said. You didn't ask anything the whole time. Hey, I put my chair in place, Nora yelled, and I rolled my eyes again. Hayden, the 16-year-old cocky son of one of our group's members, laughed out loud. Corinne told Hayden, he didn't even do that. He set it up while you were looking for squirrels in the trees. I heard from a reliable source that out there lives an albino squirrel. Noah said, Curtis is not a reliable source, and he meant it. Mason. Cotton paraphrased what he said with air quotes. Reliable source. Mason was funny and athletic, and at 15, he was one of the youngest people in our group. Most of the time, he's so high. He went on to say that he might have seen a unicorn and thought it was real. Noah was unsure. He told me that he had seen one by the river. We all laughed out loud. The youngest, Corinne, who was 14 at the time, gave Noah a sarcastic thumbs up while Noah looked at us. You're such a dumb ass. He heard from my brother. Noah muttered something as he crossed his arms. Noah said, okay, let's just roast some marshmallows, trying to change the subject. Okay, I said while still grinning. I put my hand behind my chair and threw the bag of marshmallows around. The others were reaching for their roasting sticks as my fingers touched something smooth and warm, almost like skin, instead of the plastic bag that held the fluffy balls. I pulled my hand back in fear and surprise. I heard whatever I had just touched skitter off the trees. I looked down at the dark forest around us, but I couldn't see anything. My friends looked at me like I was crazy. In a tense moment of silence, Mason said, Dude. How are you doing? I'm good, sure. I said, unconcerned. Only, I just touched an animal with my hand. Cameron Hayden said with a mocking grin, Don't be such a baby. I gave him a dirty look as he walked past me. The calm's down? Fuck you. I said, throwing him the bag of marshmallows as I reached back. Small black square, at that time, there was nothing there. We quickly went back to laughing, and being happy like usual. But I couldn't get rid of the feeling of unease. I got the sense from the force that we weren't alone. The next morning, I woke up to panicked shouts and fighting, and my eyes were still tired. I left my tent to hear Mason, Corinne, and Noah yelling at each other. "Why the hell is this happening?" I said, annoyed. Noah looked at me with a face that was both confused and scared. "Hayden's gone," he told me with a touch of fear in his voice. "What?" I said. "Hayden's gone, he's vanished, he's puffed, he's gone." I tried to make sense of the situation by saying, he could have just gone home with all his stuff. Mason pointed to Hayden's chair and day bag and said, "Still here." I didn't know what to think as I looked at the camping gear. "You worked with him, right?" "Right." When I turned back to Noah, he had gone back to bed. We all asked, "Where did he go last night?" "I heard him sneak out of our tent to go to the bathroom," Noah told us. "After he left, I went back to sleep, and he still hasn't come back." As I tried to figure out what could have happened, I started to feel scared. He may have gotten lost. I walked like a duck in these woods. "Here, you can't get lost," Noah said a last word. Small black square, I didn't respond. "Look, Crane, make him stop, and I'll go find him. While we're gone, you guys should pack up." "All right," I said with a hesitant nod for adding, "all right." "Be careful," Mason said, and Corinne nodded in response. They then walked into the trees and were no longer visible. Small black square, no. I started putting away our camping gear. It took us about an hour to put away all of our gear and clean up the campsite. As we waited for Mason and Corinne to return, I sat on a stump and jumped my leg nervously. Small black square, a few more minutes had passed, felt like forever. The color of their faces was pale, and they were running back to us. Fear was written all over their faces as they grabbed their bags and ran away. Mason yelled while taking frantic breaths. "Hayden, what about him?" "Noah. He died," they said. Corinne spoke up. "We have to leave right away," and Noah wasn't going to argue, so he listened and got his and Hayden's backpacks. I quickly put my bag on my shoulder, and we ran out of the trees. As we ran through the forest, I was getting more and more scared. I didn't think it was true. Hayden was dead. There was nothing in these woods that could kill you. The river was neither deep nor fast. None of the trees we could climb were too tall. You wouldn't hurt yourself much if you fell off of them. The woods also didn't have any bears or wolves. What's up? Dead. We got to the edge of the trees and ran into a patch of open grass between two houses. We stopped because we were out of breath. Noah, talk with a cough. What? There was another pause for a breath. Small black square, give me a damn minute, Mason muffled. We all stopped talking and took a moment to rest and catch our breath. During those quiet, tense times, the horror of the whole situation set in. Corinne and Mason took a moment to catch their breath. Mason told him, "We found Hayden near the river." He shuddered as he thought about it. He was stuck to a branch of a tree. The Lord. His hands were tied to two other branches above his head. He was gasping for air and unable to speak. His eyes were ripped out of his face with claws, and Jesus, his face was frozen in a horrified look. His shirt had been ripped open. and God. Mason stopped talking and started walking toward Corinne. He picked up where he left off, with terror playing out on his face and a scratch in his chest. Were the wrong words used? 1. We both threw up right there and then ran back to the campsite. Noah's skin was pale, and his face showed even more fear than Mason and Corinne's. Before Noah spoke again, we all sat in silence. Funk, 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 funk. He asked, what should we do? Should we call the police? I said, trying hard not to show how scared I was. What about the woods, though? Man, fuck the woods, Corinne said. Mason yelled, I will never go back in there again. We all nodded in agreement. I stood up straight and said, we need to get out of here. I already know what you mean. Not at all. We jumped over and walked away from the trees, which we never went back to because we were afraid of what was inside. Hayden has been dead for a few days now. During this time, the police found his body, and his funeral will be in a few weeks. His casket will be closed. Of course, Mason, Corinne. Noah and I didn't want to talk to the police about it. What can we say? We didn't know what was going on. Before his autopsy, we were thought to have killed him. No proof showed that someone had killed him. Hayden's body had no DNA from anyone else on it. I knew what had killed him, though. It was whatever animal had been following us around. The face in the forest, and I know what it means to be the wrong one. Now, the thing is getting closer every day. I could imagine how it looks now. It has grey skin that has been shed, long, skinny limbs that end in hands and feet with razor-sharp nails, and a long, thin head with black eyes that have shrunk and don't blink. Every night, I lock my windows and doors. I could sometimes hear it scratching at my window pane. It wants access. It wants me, and nothing will stop it when it gets impatient enough. The face in the trees will take me no matter what. Small black square, 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 small black square.